With Jason Capel, I'm Doug Sherman. You know, a year ago, Luke May was an afterthought nationally. Now, 12 months later, Jason, he is one of the front runners for ACC Player of the Year.
One of the great stories in college basketball this season, Luke May, when opportunity meets hard work. 10 double-doubles, 8 20-point games, but faces a tough test with Ben Lammers up front, one of the leading shot blockers in all of the ACC.
And it's Lammers and the Yellow Jackets who get the basketball first as we are underway here at the Dean Dome. Brandon Alston with a basketball. He's a graduate transfer from Lehigh University into Lammers. Nice step through for two.
North Carolina starting out man-to-man, not doubling Lammers inside. And the big man hasn't shot the ball well so far this season. Nice job with the up and under.
Kenny Williams misfires. There's Lammers, who's now playing on 2 healthy ankles with his first rebound. Josh Okogie for 2.
Georgia Tech getting off to a nice start. You get a bucket inside, then a run out in transition. And Josh Okogie, the surprise last season as a freshman, loves to attack downhill at his best when he can get out in transition.
And Okogie really lit up the Tar Heels in their lone meeting a year ago. He went for 26. Luke May is on the board, has the Tar Heels on the board.
If Georgia Tech is going to play a zone, and we expect to see a lot of zones from Josh Pastner, Luke May is going to find that sweet spot right in the ACC area for little jump shots.
Alston denies the screen. Extra pass, but we've got a whistle that goes against Joel Berry. Rather, it was Joel Berry who drew the charge. So it goes against Brandon Alston, his first personal. Well, defensively, Georgia Tech is among the best in the ACC, and they can make it tough on an opponent, right, Jason?
Well, they do. They do an excellent job of changing their defenses many times in one possession. We look to see a lot of zones, cross matches, but the big thing the Jackets have to do is be able to rebound the basketball.
Here's Cameron Johnson. His first shot attempt is off the mark. His second also off the mark. And a third opportunity for the Tar Heels. Theo Pinson Euro steps around Alvarado for the finger roll.
You cannot allow the Tar Heels 3 opportunities on the offensive end. Nice job from Pinson. Turned down a wide open 3-point shot to drive it to the lane for a higher percentage basket.
Now at this end, what is UNC looking to do defensively against Georgia Tech here today?
North Carolina's going to play man-to-man, but they have to contain dribble penetration, and that's why. When you put the Tar Heels in rotation, Lammers is a guy that can step out to 15 feet on the elbows as well as the short corner and knock down shots.
And as you alluded to earlier, Lammers has struggled shooting the basketball this year, and he's got 4 of the 6 points early on for Tech. Way off the mark, Berry. Here's Jose Alvarado, the terrific freshman point guard for Georgia Tech. Trying to find Abdoulaye Gay. Back out front, Alvarado on the catch and shoot. He's got 3.
You can see the mandate for the Jackets. They want to get the ball inside. They have the bigger team right now. This is North Carolina's small lineup with Pinson as well as May up front. The Jackets have an advantage if they get the ball inside.
Kenny Williams, the pull-up. First 2 for the junior from Midlothian, Virginia. It's 9-6 Yellow Jackets. You know what? Georgia Tech already has more offense in 3 minutes than they did in about 15 minutes to start the game the other night against Virginia.
And I'm sure they feel much better. That Virginia defense can suffocate you. But rule number 1 against the Tar Heels, make or miss, you have to get back in transition. They're going to attack whether you make or you miss a shot. You can't allow easy opportunities to get the ball inside that deep.
Personal foul on Lammers. That's his first. Roy Williams in his 15th year as the head coach at his alma mater. And his team back up to 15th in the AP poll this week. The reigning national champs. Well, Luke May still has that big scar on his nose. Took it from friendly fire in the win Tuesday against Clemson. Kenny Williams inadvertently got him with an elbow, prompting 5 stitches. But it certainly has no impact on how he's able to perform here today.
North Carolina in their run and jump. You have to be aware, especially when they score on the offensive end, for their run and jump to happen. The point guard has to understand it. A pass to the sideline, they're going to trap it, trying to suffocate you. The Jackets got away with one there.
Well, Josh Pastner told us before shoot-around this morning, while it's not a sigh of relief to get away from playing Virginia, it certainly does free things up. And actually, Jason, that was their first miss after making their first 5. Long rebound to the backcourt, tracked down by Berry.
Well, he doesn't have to say it. I'll say it. It's a sigh of relief playing against Virginia. There are no driving lines. They do such a great job of forcing you to play their style, and especially tough at home.
Clean look, knocked down by Pinson. He's got 5.
That brings a smile to Roy Williams' face. Theo Pinson, not a great three-point shooter, but they're wide open, feet set, able to knock it down.
We're in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, with the Tar Heels hosting Georgia Tech. Early on, it's been back and forth as we've got a foul in transition against Josh Okogie. With Jason Capel, I'm Doug Sherman. So glad you could be here with us today. And Luke May has gotten off to a good start to this ball game. He's got 4 early points, and he is the man who really helps get things going for the Tar Heels this year.
Well, he's the inside presence, a guy you can move around, can score it inside, does his work early, does a nice job of creating angles, but you can move him to the perimeter where he's an excellent three-point shooter at 48%. And he's a guy that rebounds the basketball and really brings everyone together on the defensive end.
Well, on Monday, Luke May was named ACC Player of the Week for the 3rd time this season. And really, you didn't see this coming. A year ago, outside of UNC, Jason, who really knew who this guy was?
Well, we found out who he was when he made the shot against Kentucky to lead the Tar Heels to the Final Four. But this young man is a perfect example of college basketball. When you work hard, you're consistent, and you put in the time, you have an opportunity to step up, and you're ready when that opportunity presents itself.
Averaging nearly 18 points and 10.5 rebounds per game. He's 4th in the league in scoring, 2nd behind only Marvin Bagley in rebounding. He's got a good matchup on his hands here today, though. Georgia Tech has a 6'10 senior, Ben Lammers, one of the better defenders in the ACC.
And Ben Lammers was a preseason first-team All-ACC selection. He's a guy that protects the rim, can knock down 15-foot jump shots, but he makes his bones on the defensive end. He controls the paint, 55 block shots on the season. Luke May is going to have to be aware of where he is each time he steps foot in the paint.
Tied at 11. Georgia Tech off to a quick start to this game. 5 of 7 from the floor. Josh Okogie has a couple of made field goals. Lammers has knocked down a couple of mid-range jump shots. And on the flip side, Carolina 4 of 10. They have dominated the glass early. And let's take a look at the ACC standings at the start of the day. Give you the top 9, and Virginia the only team still unscathed at the top of the standings.
And Virginia is the gold standard right now, and they're doing it defensively, locking you down, controlling the backboard, and Jerome and Guy are proving they can score the basketball. The great story for me is Louisville. Coach Padgett has done an excellent job in a tough situation getting road wins. You look at Louisville going on the road at Florida State, a big win, and then going to Notre Dame and pulling out a close one as well. The Tar Heels are right in the hunt, as well as the Blue Devils. This is going to be an excellent ACC season as we continue to move forward, which each team showing they can win at home, and they can also go on the road and get victories.
Yeah, Jason, remember Louisville was a top 10 team in the preseason, and they have not lost a bad game yet. The only 4 losses they've had, the Cardinals have lost to teams that are currently ranked in the top 25.
And they continue to get better. You look at that team, they're together, they're connected. They do a great job defensively, a towering front line, and their guards continue to improve. Dane Goodell, one of the excellent players we have in the ACC on the wing, and Snyder, an excellent senior point guard for the Cards.
And you'd have to say Georgia Tech is a surprise to be off to the 3-2 start in league play, and of course the schedule plays into that, but they have played better than at times we saw in the non-conference.
Well, they got healthy, and they got everyone back. Ben Lammers was saddled with an ankle injury. Josh Okogie, the suspension as well as a broken hand. We understand this Georgia Tech team is going to do one thing. They're going to play hard every single night, and they're going to defend you. When they score the basketball, they're going to be a tough out.
That foul was on Jose Alvarado, the freshman point guard for Georgia Tech, his first. Theo Pinson didn't expect the pass, able to recover to get it back out to Luke May, who gives it back to Pinson. Pinson right to the rack.
Well, that's inexcusable. Georgia Tech is a team that prides itself on doing the job defensively. Pinson beat Okogie top of the key, and the sea parted. Freshman Alvarado did not want to leave Berry in the corner, but you must take care of the ball at the hoop first.
Okogie unable to finish. Curtis Haywood II is checked in for Georgia Tech. He's number 13 in the old gold uniforms, and he's got his first rebound. Georgia Tech at a 10-8 clip this year, 3-2 in league play. These two teams do have something in common that you wouldn't have expected. They both lost to Wofford this year. May clears the Okogie miss. End to end, there's the first block by Lammers, but Luke May there to clean it up.
Joel Berry is going to push the ball each time down. The Jackets have to get back and help on the backboard. You can't just rely on Lammers to get every rebound.
May called for the foul.
Theo Pinson turns down the ball screen, able to get downhill, and no one helps. You remove Lammers from the paint, that creates a free avenue for number 1 in white to go up high and throw it down with authority.
9 straight points for Coach Williams' Tar Heels to take this 4-point lead. Okogie can't end the streak. 6'4" sophomore from Snellville, Georgia, averaging nearly 18 points and over 5 rebounds per game. He's a young man with a very high upside.
And he had a surprise season for those who weren't aware of just how talented he was. He wasn't a 5-star player. He's a guy that came in and worked hard and plays hard. He drives the ball to the basket with great aggression, an improving shooter, but he's a guy that lives at the foul line, puts so much pressure on the opposition.
And he shoots it at 81% from the line, so he'll make you pay. 1 of 2 there. Hey, you reference his freshman season. Only 2 other Yellow Jackets freshmen in history, Kenny Anderson and Stephon Marbury, have ever scored more points in their first year for Georgia Tech than number 5 for Georgia Tech right now.
Well, that's not bad company to be in.
No.
Kenny Anderson, Stephon Marbury, guys under Bobby Crimmins that created point guard U at Georgia Tech.
And we should throw Mark Price into that mix. Mark scored fewer points than Okogie, but averaged over 20 points per game. Sterling Manley announces his arrival into the ballgame.
And Georgia Tech worked at length on Carolina's out-of-bounds under. Once again, a miscommunication allows Manley to cut to the basket. And anytime Carolina can get points from their freshman bigs, any of the 3, that's an added bonus for the Hills.
Yeah, Jason, why do so many ACC opponents spend so much time when preparing to play Carolina on the baseline out-of-bounds plays? Because
Carolina can steal 8 points per game simply with their out-of-bounds under. Many misdirections, moving parts, but you must execute. The Hills do an excellent job night in, night out doing just that.
Why is Carolina's better than others?
I think you have multiple options with the Tar Heels. It's not just one screen, someone's open, we're going to catch and shoot. There are 4 options in each North Carolina out-of-bounds under set, with the main, most dangerous person many times being the guy that's inbounding the basketball.
Gay gets May in the air and finishes. His first 2 points snaps a long drought for the Yellow Jackets.
A.D. Gay doing the job, great footwork, keeping his foot down, able to get May in the air, and a tough finish inside.
May with the corner 3. Todrick Jackson is fouled. Personal goes against Kenny Williams. That's the first on the junior out of Byrd High School in Virginia. I kind of get the sense the folks here in the Smith Center have been going through a little stir-crazy stage. They had 10 inches of snow here in Chapel Hill, and 10 inches may as well be 6 feet around here because they just don't know how to handle it. They don't have the capability to remove the snow. And so I get the sense this big crowd is just getting ready to let loose. Lammers with another mid-range jump shot.
Well, 10 inches means they're shutting down Chapel Hill and all surrounding areas. But it's the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets that have gotten off to a hot start. Lammers has not shot the ball well, but he's finding the bottom of the cup here tonight.
Alvarado able to get right to the bucket. Jalek Felton has come into the game for the first time for Carolina. He's got the basketball now in the backcourt with Williams and Pinson. He turns it over. It'll be Carolina ball when we come back. Coach Williams told us earlier today his back deck is completely covered in snow, as is everything around campus. Welcome back to Saturday Showcase, presented by 5 Hour Energy. You're watching the ACC on ESPN with Jason Capel. I'm Doug Sherman here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Georgia Tech got off to a quick start to the ball game, hitting its first 5 shots from the floor, but have cooled off a bit lately. 1-point game. Good tempo so far, Jason. Good feel going both ways on offense. And so far, Joel Berry has yet to score. He's on the bench right now with Jalek Felton coming in. That's a consideration for Roy Williams. As we see a little bit of a recap, Ben Lammers has been able to find the range so far. For Carolina, with Felton not playing as well as they would like, and with the ongoing rehab of 7th Woods, there really are a few options at the point guard spot for UNC right now.
Well, it has to be Jalek Felton. And it's a great opportunity for the young man to come in, take care of the basketball, and simply run the team. You can't play Joel Berry 40 minutes a game. Coach Williams does not want to do that. So the freshman has to step up, take responsibility, and get the job done. A.D. Gay, once again, great footwork, very patient inside, getting to his spot for a lefty finish.
Williams with a bad pass out of bounds. There is Joel Berry, the captain from Apopka, Florida. And Luke May, the 6'8 junior from Huntersville, North Carolina. Georgia Tech has answered the Carolina 9-0 run with an 8-0 run of its own to retake the lead by 3. Todrick Jackson with the basketball.
That's what Coach Pastner said his Jackets had to do. Not allow Carolina to go on those 10-0 runs, and when they do, step up, dig your feet in the sand, and make a run yourself. Jack is doing a nice job here in the first half.
Big rebound by Alvarado, finds himself free, but then badly missed the 3. Georgia Tech will keep. Andrew Platek has come into the game as well for North Carolina, the freshman guard from Guilderland, New York.
Coach Williams imploring to his team, finish possessions with the rebound. The Heels did a nice job defending, forced a tough shot. With a small lineup, all 5 guys have to come downhill and gain rebound. That's an emphasis for the Tar Heels this season.
And Brandon Robinson also off the bench for Carolina. What do you think about where Coach Williams is with his rotation and how deep he goes on his bench at this point of the season?
I think you see who he trusts. He's going to play 8 or 9 guys in the first half, but who's he going to trust? He must have Joel Berry and Luke May on the court for much of the game, as well as Theo Pinson, because they understand what to do, and they're the guys that can get the job done defensively as well.
Berry still scoreless. There's the active hands of Luke May. I tell you what, during practice yesterday, during sprints as the Carolina Tar Heels turn it over, Luke May and Andrew Platek were the ones leading the sprints, working as hard as they can, setting the pace for their teammates.
There aren't many drills the Heels are going to have in practice, shoot around, or what have you, that Luke May is not going to try to be the very first. That's his DNA. He works hard, and that's why he's having the season that he's having so far.
Well, Luke May promised Coach Williams when Luke was still in high school, I'm going to be your hardest worker. And that's what helped secure him the scholarship to be able to come here and be such a terrific player for the Heels.
You look at the improvement. Plus 12 points per game this year. Played behind Isaiah Hicks and Kennedy Meeks a season ago, as well as Tony Bradley. And now it's his front line. The Heels needed him to step up and be able to control the paint. And he's done just that. A guy that can stretch it out from 3, averaging a double-double. You know he's going to bring his hard hat and give you effort and energy night in, night out.
Platek and Robinson in the backcourt. Ball bounces off the hands of Garrison Brooks. That's the 4th Carolina turnover. Yellow Jackets up 5 with the ball.
The matchup zone of Georgia Tech, once again, is giving North Carolina trouble. They're trying to get into the ACC area, but Brooks isn't a guy that can catch it and do anything with it when he gets it there.
Haywood, no. Playtech clears the rebound. Dangerous pass. Nice job by Berry to keep possession. Shot clock at 15. Brooks is going to be called for the illegal screen.
Coach Williams telling his team, move the basketball. Too much ball handling, and the ball is freezing on one side of the floor. When you're playing against the zone, you must make the zone move. Move it from one side of the floor to the other, loosen it up, then attack gaps and try to get into the middle where you can look to score or create a shot for another.
Playtech with another rebound. Carolina scoreless for the last 5.5 minutes. And he stepped out of bounds. Teddy Valentine was right on top of that. And so Berry turns it over. In their game in Atlanta last season, the only 2 times these teams met, the Yellow Jackets won, and it was their defense. They forced 20 turnovers, including 6 committed by Berry. And there's a turnover forced here today by Coach Pastner's club.
Well, it's the zone defense. The zone defense revolves into multiple looks that can throw a potent offense that the Tar Heels have off their rhythm. And the Jackets, when they're able to score the basketball, we understand they're going to play hard, they're going to defend you. Can they rebound? Can they continue to score at a high clip? And you can't turn the ball over to get a win on the road.
Offensive foul on Okogie, his second. 10 inches of snow fell on Wednesday here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots. Get back to 100%.
It's Rock Chalk versus freshman phenom.
Trae Young is so far ahead of the pack.
In a sonic blockbuster. Number 10 Kansas takes on number 4 Oklahoma Tuesday at 7 on ESPN.
Anytime the Sooners take the floor, it is must-see TV because of Trae Young, who is in action as we speak. You see the Sooners trailing in Stillwater against their arch-rival Cowboys, and so far Trae only 7 points, 2 assists. Our defense is in the Big 12 figuring out how better to attack Trae Young.
Well, I did the K-State game where Trae Young turned the ball over 12 times. And the thing teams are doing are beginning in ball screens, stay connected, not blitzing it, but keeping 2 defenders around him to force the other Sooners to be the guys to make opportunities for themselves or others. But make no mistake, Trae Young is one of the best players, if not the best player, in all of college basketball.
Todrick Jackson picks the pocket of Berry. On the run out, Alvarado, no. Luke May with another rebound. He'll dribble it back the other way. Nobody stops him. Now he kicks to the corner. Tar Heels with an open look for Cam Johnson. Can't leave him open. He's going to knock that shot down.
Cam Johnson, a supreme three-point shooter, knocked down 6 here against the Clemson Tigers. Rule number 1 in transition defense, stop the basketball. You can't allow Luke May to get all the way downhill, his footprints in the paint, suck into defense for a little pitch and catch with Johnson.
Well, after the Notre Dame game, Coach Williams graded each of his players as he typically does and gave, as Gay knocks down another shot, he gave Cam Johnson an F. And Cam Johnson said, I don't like getting an F, whether it's in the classroom, basketball court. So he went to work, and he came out and put up 21 points last time out, knocked down his shots, and he has his first 3 points here this afternoon. Another Carolina turnover. Johnson takes it back.
Georgia Tech wants to be opportunistic with their running, but they can't try to get in a foot race with the Tar Heels. You can't turn the basketball over and try to get a win here on the road.
Excuse me, Jason, 9 turnovers already for UNC.
And many of the unforced character in North Carolina, that's not who they are. Trying to play a little too fast at times, but in the half court, you got to give the Jackets matchup zone, revolving zone, a lot of credit for disrupting.
May the steal. Berry around Haywood. Our ESPN Saturday Showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy continues at 6 Eastern when Baylor takes on number 10 Kansas at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. Then at 8:15 Eastern, our Saturday primetime game presented by AT&T tips off with Florida battling number 18 Kentucky at Rupp Arena, where the College Game Day boys were today. Both games also streaming live on the ESPN app. And the Gators, to me, are one of the more interesting teams in the country. That they look like a ball of fire in November, look like a legitimate Final Four team. Then things just fell apart. They stopped making shots in December, and now they are in SEC play and back to making shots and looking pretty good.
Well, you said it. Making shots, one of the most explosive offenses in all of college basketball. But much of their identity and who they are on the court revolves around whether they're making shots or not. Your defense has to travel and be able to carry you when you labor to score.
Off the takeaway, Pinson back into the ballgame for the easy two. The senior from Greensboro's got 9 to lead all scorers. And the foul called against Kenny Williams, his second. By the way, Todrick Jackson had picked up his second moments ago for Georgia Tech and is out of the game.
You look at the lineup right now for Georgia Tech. A.D. Gay's giving them good minutes inside scoring. Lammers has knocked down a few jump shots. But where are the points on the perimeter going to come from? Todrick Jackson, Josh Okogie, both sitting on the bench. If you're Georgia Tech right now, you must get in your half-court set, execute flawlessly, and try to get that ball inside.
Well, the two bigs have been effective so far. This is one of them. Gay to the left hand this time. No. He and Lammers have been carrying the offensive load for the Yellow Jackets. Another Carolina turnover, number 10.
There are some benefits to the Tar Heels playing small. They can play faster. Theo Pinson can attack. But you must be smart. And both teams just throwing the ball all over the floor. You must value possessions. The other Tar Heels, many times trying to play too fast with the smaller lineup. You're Georgia Tech. You cannot get in a foot race with the Tar Heels. They're deeper. They have more talent. You have to be opportunistic when you want to break and try to attack early before a defense is set. But, partner, you must take care of the basketball when you're facing the Heels.
Johnson with a deep three. Here comes Okogie back into the game for Tech. Haywood. Front rimmed it. Johnson's been active for UNC with the spin dribble. Berry, what a break! Carolina takes the lead on Berry's first made field goal of the afternoon, and he's called for the reach-in foul.
Cam Johnson, known as a three-point shooter, an underrated facilitator, able to get in transition, push downhill, nifty ball handling, head up, the spin, the find. Berry with a tough two inside.
No doubt about it, but I don't think we want to bring that up to either one of the head coaches here today, but they're both well aware of the fact that Wofford has taken down both of these ACC teams earlier this year.
Well, they have, and have to give the nod to the coach of the Wofford Terriers, Mike Young, one of the best coaches in all of college basketball. I coached against him for 5 years, and let me tell you, there's no picnic planning to play against his ball club.
During your days as head coach at Appalachian State, we haven't mentioned that you're back at your alma mater again today. Former Tar Heel Jason Capel here with Doug Sherman. Good work inside by one of the freshman bigs, Sterling Manley, with his second bucket. And that's an area where the Tar Heels really need those youngsters to pick up their game.
Really like this kid. Out of the three, he's the one I believe that's furthest along. You see there the length, the size, great timing. But you have a freshman trying now to defend. Lammers inside, one of the premier bigs in the ACC. Rule number one, you can't allow him to set up real estate in the paint, create that angle. Too easy of a finish inside.
Lammers a perfect 5 for 5 from the floor here in the first half. Just over 3 minutes to go until the intermission. And Garrison Brooks had been in Carolina's starting lineup for the majority of the season till the last couple of weeks. And he has really been surpassed by that man, Sterling Manley, in the rotation over the last couple of games. And with the way Brooks has played so far in his limited action today, 3 turnovers in 3 minutes, it's going to be that much tougher to get back on the floor.
Well, Brooks was receiving the basketball in places that he wasn't comfortable. Right there is a prime example. The Tar Heels, their bigs right now, the 3 of them, you talk about Brooks, Huffman, as well as Manley, you must give them the basketball where all they have to do is catch and power it to the rim. Manley's so long. His arms, good timing to block shots. You see that nice touch there from the foul line. I think this kid has a bright, bright future here in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, freshman from Pickerington, Ohio, whose great-great-uncle Willie Thrower was a pioneer as one of the NFL's first black quarterbacks. He went to Michigan State and then played for the Chicago Bears back in the 50s, and that's Sterling Manley's great-great-uncle Willie. 1 of 2 from the line. He's got 5 points. And by the way, that foul was on Lammers, his second. Tech's bigs have been very effective on the offensive end. Lammers and Gay have led the way. They're down 3 with the ball. Todrick Jackson, tough pass. Turnover number 8 for the Yellow Jackets.
With Todrick Jackson indecisive on the catch, looked to shoot. And then when the defense closed out, tried to fire a pass inside, and Coach Pastner pulling him out, sitting him on the bench to think about that. Putting Alvarado back in the game. The Jackets, their bigs, which a lot of times has been their downside, they're the ones carrying the team. The guards have to step up and contribute as well.
Barry. Sterling Manley with the throwdown.
That was a grown man rebound and a big-time finish from the freshman. You go up, you snatch the ball with 2 hands, you gather yourself low, you go up high in traffic, and you make no doubt that you're going to finish this play.
At 7 Eastern, we've got a Big 12 Sonic blockbuster for you on ESPN. Freshman sensation Trae Young and 4th-ranked Oklahoma host Devontae Graham and the 10th-ranked Kansas Jayhawks. And as always, you can watch it on the ESPN app. And I'm telling you, Jason, Devontae Graham is going to be waiting for that young freshman Sooner to come in.
Well, I can vouch for that. Devontae Graham, one of the most electric players in college basketball. A guy that does the job on both sides, a senior who will have, I'm sure he's had that game circled, ultimate competitor. And he's leading the Jayhawks now from the guard position.
Manley with his 3rd dunk already today.
A great find from Theo Pinson, maybe the best passer on this team. The size on the perimeter, throwing it cross court. And there you see, Manley's ready to catch the ball, and when he gets it, he has one objective, to go up high and try to throw it down.
Haywood, long range 3. You know, since Georgia Tech led 22-17, the Tar Heels have outscored them by 10. They've outscored them 16-6. Timeout called by Carolina.
Well, this is Carolina basketball. Sharing, great vision. Pinson throws it across court. Manley hands ready on the catch, ready to simply step, go up high and power through one of the top shot blockers in all of the ACC. North Carolina uncharacteristically has turned the basketball over at a high rate this first half. And when you're getting production from any of the 3 freshmen, that's an added bonus for the Heels. And Manley, 9 points, high percentage shots. Now you can play the traditional Carolina lineup with 2 bigs on the floor, protect the rim. And they're doing an excellent job dominating the backboard as well.
Sterling Manley, 6'11", 240. His career highs came against Bucknell. He played only 17 minutes against the Bison and put up 16 points, grabbed 13 rebounds. He's a guy who suffered a couple of broken legs in high school. They weren't really sure what they'd get out of him this year. He continues to trend in the right direction.
You can see he's still growing into his body. He's going to get better and better, starting to run a little better, and his conditioning is allowing him to play more minutes.
Luke May catch and shoot. Manley active again, and he gets possession of the basketball. They say Georgia Tech was the last to touch. Felton. Johnson from the short corner. 2-point bucket as Carolina stretches its largest lead to 7. Lammers has been perfect from the floor, but not that time. A little different trying to shoot over Sterling Manley.
And he faded away. And a big reason, you have 6'11", 245 down there banging against you. Manley doing a nice job pushing Lammers off the block, then contesting a fadeaway jump shot. When the Heels lock down and defend, they're a team that can play with anyone in the country. Doing a nice job here the last 6 minutes on the defensive end.
Here's Jalek Felton, the freshman point guard from West Columbia, South Carolina. Clock down to 7. Pinson's had a big first half. Couldn't get the second effort. May just flings it up. In spite of those second and third chance opportunities denied there, second chance points have been a big part of the story here in the first half as Carolina heads to the locker room with the lead. It's halftime in Chapel Hill, 35-28. Let's head to Zubin and Chris in the studio. Saturday Showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy. The Tar Heels back onto the floor here at halftime. And Georgia Tech has not been able to keep Carolina from getting onto the glass, Jason Capel, and that's really been one of the big differences so far.
Well, that is the difference. 13 offensive rebounds and 15 points coming from those. You must do the job if you're Georgia Tech. If you force the Tar Heels to miss the first shot, 5 guys have to find a white jersey, box them out, move them out the lane, and corral the rebound. Now you can get out and play offense. But you must finish possessions, team rebounding here in the second half.
Sterling Manley came off that Carolina bench. 9 minutes. He scored 9 points, a lot of energy, and it makes it tougher for Ben Lammers on the other side.
Well, he has fresh bodies coming at him, and Manley came off the bench, did a nice job being ready when the ball came to him to simply catch and power it to the rim. He's been on the offensive glass himself, and when the Heels have front court scoring, they're a tough team to beat.
Well, Berry and May have been quite a combination this year. You see their numbers. They've both been held in check a bit the first 20 minutes. But how about this, Jason? Luke May and Joel Berry are the first 2 Tar Heels since 83-84, Michael Jordan and Sam Perkins, to both average 17 or more points per game. Of course, it's not official yet. You've got to do it for the entire season, but that's pretty good company to keep.
Anytime you can be in a category with the greatest of all time and Sam Perkins, that's
smooth.
Great company to be in.
Kenny Williams, good way to start the half for the Heels. They have their largest lead of the day. And if you're Georgia Tech, how do you get Okogie and Jackson going?
Well, for Okogie, you have to allow him to get out in transition. How do you do that? You do that by getting stops and rebounds. Okogie's a straight line driver, but the Heels are doing the job containing him, not allowing him to get all the way downhill. The next maturation of his game is being able to shoot the basketball, and they're a nice little 12-foot pull-up.
So as you see, 9 points to lead Georgia Tech. Todrick Jackson will come off the bench. He has yet to score. Georgia Tech's 3 best players, each with 2 fouls in that first half, along with Lammers. Joel Berry with his first triple of the day.
And once again, against that zone, if the ball hits the middle, specifically if Luke May's the recipient, he can catch, score, or he can look cross court to a wide open Joel Berry, who knocks down a timely 3-point shot.
Foul called on Joel Berry.
The Tar Heels, a very unselfish ball club. And you see Luke May. We know him as a rebounder, a scorer, but they're the facilitator, finding his point guard, 3-ball corner pocket. Just great recognition of where Berry was going to be on the catch in the middle of the floor.
And you know, those two guys, Berry and May, set a tremendous example for their younger teammates. There's Berry nearly coming up with the steal. I had their game at Tennessee earlier this year, and we had a shoot-around at 8 o'clock in the morning, and that was at the behest of the UNC leaders. They wanted it that early, and Berry got there even before his teammates an hour early to get up more shots.
Each game, whether home or on the road, Joel Berry's going to beat the team here before shoot-around, get shots up in his spots on the floor with a manager as well as assistant coach Hubert Davis. That's his process to get his mind and body ready to compete. And that last possession is a perfect example of why North Carolina is winning this game. Two guys on the floor while a Georgia Tech player is bending at the waist trying to pick it up. The Heels right now are playing smarter and beginning to play harder as well.
Berry misses going coast to coast, but there's his partner in crime, Luke May, to clean it up. 8 points for the junior out of Huff High School in Huntersville, North Carolina. A.D. Gay, he has looked good on the low block of the offensive end. That's 8 points for him. Theo Pinson earns a trip to the line. Well, you know, one of the subplots for this game today is the officiating crew, and it's not so much about Bill Covington Jr. or Jeb Hartness. It's about Ted Valentine. And if you remember a couple of weeks ago, he was involved in a controversy that he turned his back on Joel Berry when Joel Berry was called for a foul and wanted to discuss it. And so these two are in the same place at the same time for the first time since that incident.
And you see the play here, January 3rd against Florida State. Joel Berry was held by Terrence Mann. And Joel Berry, a most outstanding player, a Final Four champion, now a senior, I think he deserves the right to be able to talk to an official. But all is well. They hugged it out. Ted Valentine talked to him a little bit, explained the situation. They laugh about it, hug about it. You throw the ball up and you play a game of basketball. But you love to see that, the maturity from Joel Berry, but the olive branch as well from Ted Valentine.
Ted Valentine, right after that incident, was taken off a couple of games, and he even was public about saying he was considering retirement. But based on what we've seen from him today, May denied by Okogie. I'd say TV Teddy Valentine is not going to retire anytime soon. He's out there doing his thing. And you know what? We saw him before the game with Coach Williams using an iPad. And what exactly were they doing here, Jason?
Well, officials can grade themselves. And Ted Valentine explained to us that Coach Williams asked him to take a look at a play in the same game against Florida State. Theo Pinson trying to take a charge, and Ted Valentine looked it up, put it on the iPad, saved it, brought it and showed Coach, blew it up so he could see it. Trying to tell him, I made the right call. And the Heels making the right call here in the second 20 minutes of this ball game, doing the job on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Teddy Valentine said Coach Williams gave me an assignment, and I can take an assignment, and he did his homework and brought it here today.
Gave him some homework, and he brought it, turned it in. Whether the teacher likes it or not, when you turn it in and you show your work, you have to respect that.
Berry got it up on the rim, just couldn't get it to go. He's a little slow to get up, but appears to be okay. Okogie at the other end. He'll have a chance for three.
You ask, how do you get Josh Okogie involved? You have to allow him to play in space and get in transition. At his best, he's a guy that's going to drive it as hard as he can, put pressure on the defense, but you must get stops to be able to do that. Takes the harm, powers it to the rim, able to finish the two with a chance for three.
That was Theo Pinson's first personal foul. Berry has left the game for the Tar Heels, replaced by Felton. And Okogie up to 12 points. The other part of that equation I was asking you about, how do you get Todrick Jackson go? The simple answer is keep him out of foul trouble. He came into the game, immediately picked up his third, and he's back on the bench as Luke May hits the turnaround.
Todrick Jackson, I call him a power guard. He's a guy who's short in stature, but he will post you up so physical inside, but he has to play smarter. Some costly turnovers, breakdowns defensively. But number 5 in gold, if you allow him to attack, last season, Strictly a right-hand driver, you see the improvement in his game, making the second move to his left, able to finish over contact inside.
Williams no, May yes, and the offensive glass continues to really favor Carolina.
North Carolina, one of the best rebounding teams in all of college basketball, plus 11 on the backboard, doing the job, getting second chance opportunities and making the Yellow Jackets pay.
Kogi split the double team but couldn't get by the third defender. It's Felton.
Tar Heels doing the job on the defensive end, giving the raucous crowd reason to stand on their feet. Team defense shooting the gap on the break. They call it the J5 show. Going up high.
Rebounding's a big part of the story here this afternoon for Carolina against Georgia Tech. Matter of fact, Jason, the Tar Heels have more offensive rebounds, 14, than Georgia Tech has total, 12.
And the Heels simply dominating the backboard on both sides. But they're converting offensive rebounds directly into points. When you're playing North Carolina, the two things you have to be aware of and be prepared for: transition defense, getting back, stopping the Heels, as well as rebounding the basketball. And here in the second half, the Yellow Jackets are suffering in both categories so far.
Yeah, Luke May, 12 points, 8 rebounds, 5 of those on the offensive glass. Terrific cut from Alvarado. Takes the feed from Lammers for the layup. Johnson, Williams, Felton. Manley, who calls for the ball, doesn't get it. Nice deflection by Todrick Jackson. Jackets on the move to the right hand. First 2 points for number 1 in Old Gold.
And you like the fight there from Georgia Tech. Doing the job scoring, but coming down and defending, getting a deflection, creating an easy opportunity in transition.
Now, Jalek Felton has talked about his confidence this year. You know, you come in from high school where you're a top recruit and things don't go as easily as they always did through your life. He's still feeling that a little bit, right, Jason?
Well, the toughest position to play here at North Carolina is the point guard position. So much responsibility. You're the general to execute the offense as well as dictate the signal calls defensively from Coach Williams.
We've got a break here in Chapel Hill. Back right after this. ESPN Saturday Showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy continues at the Phog. 6 Eastern, Baylor takes on number 10 Kansas. Then at 8:15 Eastern, our Saturday primetime game presented by AT&T tips with Florida and Kentucky at Rupp. Both games also streaming live on the ESPN app. So you're saying Kansas is still the front runner to win another Big 12 championship, perhaps?
The road to the championship goes through Lawrence, Kansas, until someone takes the crown. And the Jayhawks are finding their way. They're getting healthy. Azubuike inside, controlling the paint. But Devontae Graham, one of the best leaders in all of college basketball, when he hits his stride, he's making shots, but now a better finisher at the rim as well. A guy that does an excellent job on both sides.
Little pick and roll, Gay with the finish. But back to Kansas, we learned today that Billy Preston is not going to ever play for the Jayhawks. He has indeed signed with a professional team over in Bosnia. And so is that potentially a good thing for Coach Self and the team knowing he's not going to be there? I mean, of course, they'd rather have him, but now that drama is over.
Well, it's just having certainty of what you're doing moving forward. Who are the guys that are going to be playing that can help you possibly win that Big 12 championship and compete for a national championship?
Shot clock at 3. Barry, 4-3, and he missed the rim. There's the former Kansas head coach, Roy Williams, not pleased. You think he still cares?
Oh, very much so. I talk about guys as competitors. Coach Williams is one of the toughest competitors in anything he does, and his team simply did not execute a busted play. And how many times are you going to see the Tar Heels face a short shot clock throughout a ballgame?
Todrick Jackson with the runner. Yeah, Coach Williams told his guys on Tuesday, I started the season at age 67, and I'm going to end the season at 97.
North Carolina, so many young players. You talked about shortening that rotation. A big reason, trying to bring those guys along. But the standard is the standard. The Heels are going to play for ACC championships and try to compete to repeat. He's unhappy about something, and when you turn to the bench and he grabs your wrist, that means somebody on the floor did not do what they were supposed to do and will soon be having a seat beside him.
14 points for Luke May. Yeah, he may be having flashbacks to Tuesday's game against Clemson when the Tigers in the second half came out and hit 15 consecutive shots. The Yellow Jackets hot here in the second, although Jackson misses. Luke May keeps the dribble, gets it back out to Pinson. Lost it on the way up, and it hit the shot clock above the basket, so that should be a turnover unless it was deflected by a Yellow Jacket. Did Pinson just lose it, or did one of Josh Pastner's guys touch it?
Pinson attacking the rim. You see two yellow jerseys. I think he just simply lost the basketball. The ball wasn't in his hands by the time he met Gay and Lammers inside.
I agree. I thought live we had a good angle, and the replay
absolutely
bore that out. A big break for the Tar Heels. And a foul if it's against Jackson. That's his fourth. Let's see who gets it. It's against Alvarado instead, so that's good news for Georgia Tech. Number 2 on the freshman point guard.
That's a sigh of relief because Todrick Jackson's a guy that can score the basketball. A veteran player at the guard position who the Jackets, if they're going to mount a comeback in this contest, they need number 1 in the gold on the floor.
Yeah, Todrick Jackson is only 24 points shy of 1,000 for his career, but he's only got 2 so far here today. Carolina will keep. And again, a big argument from the Yellow Jackets and from Gay. What do you think?
The shot goes up, 2 guys going after it. You like the hustle, but a bigger question I have, there was only 1 white jersey inside surrounded by 3 gold Georgia Tech jerseys. You're Georgia Tech, you can't have to think and react. Simply go get the basketball. There are times you're doing the job defensively. You're forcing tough shots. You have to finish the possession with a rebound.
This time, Georgia Tech with its 6-foot point guard able to get that defensive rebound. And the personal goes against Kenny Williams.
And Doug, that's the point. I don't care who it is. Someone has to come downhill and rebound the basketball. It can be a point guard, it can be a big up front. But you have to take pride once you've done the job defending for 28 seconds to finish that possession with a team rebound.
And Jason, we saw there A.D. Gay, who had just had the big argument with Teddy Valentine, getting together at the next stop. And that's part of why so many of the big-time coaches in the country love to have Teddy Valentine officiating their games. Haywood. 12:15 remaining in regulation. Carolina's lead is 9. May trying to stretch it to 12. Can't do it. One and done that time for UNC.
Georgia Tech still very much in this ballgame. The lead may seem like it's 20 points, but it's a 3-possession game. The Jackets are doing a nice job here of late defending. They have to rebound. They must execute on the offensive end.
Alvarado able to get into the paint and draw the foul. Georgia Tech trying to hang in there. Can they make a push here in Chapel Hill?
Tuesday, it's Rock Chalk versus freshman phenom
Trae Young is so far ahead of the pack.
in a sonic blockbuster. Number 10 Kansas takes on number 4 Oklahoma Tuesday at 7 on ESPN.
And Trae Young is doing his thing right now in Stillwater, Oklahoma, on the road. 21 points, 5 assists, 4 turnovers. He's 7 of 20 from the floor. We had a chance to see him with Jay Williams on College Game Day this morning. And again, that's the thing that strikes me, Jason, about Trae Young is his humility and his ability to lead without being showy.
Was such an excellent player, mature beyond his years, but you can tell by listening to him, thankful for the opportunity to represent his home state, home school, a kid from Norman who's starring for the Sooners. And I want people to appreciate the greatness of Trae Young while he's in college basketball. We can nitpick. He's turned the ball over a little bit of late, especially against Kansas State. But he's a special player that's doing a nice job as a rookie leading the Sooners.
Out of Norman North High School, about 4 miles from the OU campus. Berry with the shot clock going off, misfired on the scoop. Here comes Todrick Jackson. Right to the lane, big collision. Offensive foul, and Josh Pastner is beside himself. And I think that may be an accumulation of calls right there that got him that upset.
I agree with you. He puts his hands in his pockets to ensure he's not flailing that could possibly draw the ear of Teddy Valentine. But Todrick Jackson attacking downhill has to understand the heels are back, they're set. Don't put yourself in that position to pick up your 4th foul, knowing how crucial you are to this ball club.
And so Todrick Jackson, with 11:05 on the clock, stays on the floor with those 4 fouls. He's got the defensive assignment on Pinson. Alvarado crowding Berry. 8 to shoot. Cam Johnson trying to go with the left hand, couldn't do it. Gabe may have gotten a piece of it.
Georgia Tech on multiple possessions on the defensive end have forced North Carolina into a short shot clock. Now you must execute and get a quality look at the rim here on the offensive end.
Is that a quality look, even though it went in? 3 for Todrick Jackson, who's not a three-point shooter.
It's not a quality look, but sometimes it's better to be lucky. In any bucket you can get on the road from distance to pull you a little closer, trying to mount a comeback, are points you're going to take.
Back to a 5-point game. Ben Lammers has been quiet here in the second half for Tech. This time to the right hand. Johnson able to finish. He's into double figures with 10.
And whereas North Carolina had been stagnant offensively, a nice job there, ball and body movement. Great screen set. Johnson able to curl and get all the way to the cup.
There goes Todrick Jackson. This time avoids the contact, missed the floater. Here comes Berry with Alvarado to beat. And the senior scores over the freshman.
Josh Pastner signaling for a timeout. If you're a freshman point guard, you have to understand when a shot goes up, your #1 responsibility is to get back and create defensive balance. If you do not, that's going to allow the Tar Heels to become the juggernaut in transition that they are. Pinson gets it, pitches it ahead, and Joel Berry able to attack downhill for an easy lay off the glass. When you want to play Carolina, you're trying to get a win. Rule #1, you have to have great transition defense and ensure you have defensive balance.
Well, Jason, at the start of the day, Joe Lunardi had 9 ACC teams in the field of 68. He had Carolina as a 2. He's got, of course, Duke and Virginia on the top line. Carolina as a 2 seed. Where do you see the Tar Heels, and where do you think their ceiling will be in March and potentially April?
I think all of the ACC, there's so much league play to be played that those rankings are going to continue to change. They're going to beat each other up. I believe the Tar Heels are a team that can score with anybody in the country, especially when they're not playing at UVA again. But the maturation of their front line is what's going to be the ceiling for the Heels. If their bigs continue to grow and able to play spot minutes, then this team is as tough as anyone. I think the Blue Devils are beginning to play solid defense, and that's the only weakness I believe they have. And Virginia, simply the best defensive team in all of college basketball. And with Jerome and Guy now shooting it at a high clip, they're a dangerous team as well.
It is amazing the contrast in styles at the top of the ACC.
Well, absolutely. You have Virginia who, if you score over 55 points against them, you're hopefully, if you're the opposition, thinking you're going to win the game. Mm-hmm. You simply labor to score. You have Louisville. They do defense, great size. The Blue Devils, the most talented team in all of college basketball, but so young and now learning to develop a defensive identity.
Shot clock under 10. Pinson blocked. That was Okogie with the rejection. Carolina will keep with 3 on the shot clock.
Josh Okogie executing, coming from the weak side out of nowhere. the extension, the rejection. Only 3 seconds on the shot clock.
Multiple point-blank chances. Pinson miss. Brooks, though, will go to the line.
Partner, you asked me in the first half, why do teams practice and try to prepare so much for the Tar Heels out of bounds under? Because there is a situation for everything. There are 3 seconds on the shot clock, not a lot to do. You run a play where you screen in, and now you're running your three-man, Theo Pinson, to the rim for a lot. The Heels are prepared for any situation they're going to face, whether it's side out of bounds under, and that's what makes them so difficult to prepare.
And ultimately it gets one of those terrific big man prospects you've been talking about. Garrison Brooks to the line. He's got his first 2 points. Freshman from Lafayette, Alabama. Alvarado for 3. That's 11 points for the freshman out of Christ the King High School in Queens, New York. Quickly back the other way. We've got a foul on the shot. You know, we talked about the upside for Carolina. Georgia Tech right now sits at 3-2 in league play for Josh Pastner, who when hired a year and a half ago was told by his bosses, you know, don't be surprised if you don't win a game in conference all year. Well, they did win 8 games last year, went to the postseason. Where do you see Georgia Tech? I mean, when you play in the ACC, you've got a tough schedule and a lot of chances for big wins. Do they have that in them?
Well, you're talking about a team who made it all the way to the championship of the NIT. But there are no nights off in the ACC. Here, obviously, today at North Carolina, Florida State got a big win on the road against Virginia Tech. Clemson has climbed their way into the top 25. Georgia Tech is healthy. They have a full deck now with the Kogi Lammers as well as Todrick Jackson back on the floor. They're not an easy out, but their margin of error is so slim. They have to do so many things close to perfect to be able to compete with the upper echelon of the ACC.
As a look at the folks who made the trip last night from Atlanta here to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. They had a couple of inches of snow in Atlanta, which can be debilitating in the Deep South as well, just like the 10 inches they got here in Chapel Hill. Pinson now with 11. Foul off the ball against Pinson. Sports Center tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2 after Tennessee and South Carolina. Well, you got the Thunder against the Cavaliers, but the big storyline here in the Dean Dome is will high school phenom Zion Williamson pick the Tar Heels over, say, the Gamecocks or the Clemson Tigers or the Blue Devils? That decision will be made live on Sports Center tonight, 8 o'clock on ESPN2. You can also see that on the ESPN app. What's your gut tell you? Zion Williamson, the number 2 player in the ESPN 100. Does he have a chance to be wearing Tar Heel blue for Coach Williams? We'll talk about that when we come back to the Dean Dome. It's a 9-point Heels lead. Of freshman stars around the country. Trae Young, of course, is what everybody's talking about. Marvin Bagley is as good a freshman as Coach K has had. He says he is a unique player, not just a unique freshman, but a unique player for that program.
Well, the term unicorn has been tossed around to these 6'11 guys that seemingly can move anywhere on the floor, and Marvin Bagley III falls into that category. A double-double machine. He's a better shooter than we've seen throughout the year. We've seen him knock down three-point shots, but a supreme athlete, and the guy next to him as well. When you talk about the Wendell Carter, he doesn't get the credit simply because he's playing next to Marvin Bagley III, but that front line is as imposing as any you're going to see in college basketball.
And you know, the guy next to him on the graphic, DeAndre Ayton at Arizona, may wind up being the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft. He may have the biggest potential and upside of all of them.
He's another guy that falls in that unicorn category. So big, so strong, seemingly busting through his uniform, but yet a soft touch can step outside from 3 and knock it down as well.
The lob to Lammers trying to get him going, and he continues to be scoreless in the second half. Jalek Felton for 3. Out of bounds off of Williams, back to Tech. Well, Zubin mentioned in the first half that this game can be seen as the Wofford Bowl because both these ACC teams were upset by Wofford in the non-conference. It's part of a big trend that we've seen in college basketball that we've already had 17 different teams in the AP Top 5 this year, and many of those were knocked out of the Top 5, like Carolina in the loss to Wofford, losing not just to other ranked opponents but to unranked teams. It's been crazy so far this season.
Well, you have Power 5 schools who have a lot of turnover, a lot of transition with guys leaving early and such. The lower tier teams, they have 4-year players. They're older. They play together. And the Tar Heels continue to grow themselves. Luke May with a timely three-point shot there. But you see Cameron Johnson, Jalik Felton, guys that are getting experience in the rotation. The Heels are going to continue to get better as the season progresses.
It's kind of been a quiet 17 points and 9 rebounds for Luke May, but oh, by the way, ho-hum, he's on the verge of another double-double.
Just workmanlike. Does his job and does it well. Talked about Ben Lammers. They need him to get going, but simply, in my opinion, playing too far from the basket. You need to get him inside where he's comfortable, not standing out beyond the three-point line as a facilitator.
Johnson called for the foul.
And another thing when you're watching Georgia Tech play, take a look at Lammers. He's going out of the game now, but the big fella plays so many minutes. He's fatigued. The Tar Heels running fresh bodies at him, banging on him. Josh Pastner does not have a large rotation, so it takes its toll, especially on a big man that's battled injury with his feet throughout this season.
Yeah, he didn't practice for several weeks. He played every game, but he did not have a practice or even a shoot-around for about a month and a half, and so he's still trying to get some of the rust off. Okogie now with 16 points. Georgia Tech trying to make a push, but Johnson pushes back.
And just like that, Lammers got a quick drink on the bench, and he's walking his way to the scores table to check in. Why? You see how quickly the Tar Heels were able to attack the paint, get all the way to the rim. They need his defensive presence simply to trust that they can defend and have a rim protector inside.
Yeah, he was the 2017 ACC Defensive Player of the Year, second team All-Conference, and as you mentioned, Jason, preseason first team. But that bulky ankle has really kept the numbers down this year, and you see he heads back to the bench. Why do you imagine that would be?
Well, I think the layup caused Coach Pastner to be very frustrated, and he looked down at the bench and recognized his big fella wasn't in, and in the haste turned and wanted to put him back in the game quickly to ensure the Jackets could have some defensive balance on the interior. But he has to be fatigued, and maybe that extra 30 seconds allowed him to get that second win because, again, he's right back at the scores table ready to check in the ballgame.
Or he's wearing him out going from the bench to the scores table like a relief pitcher in baseball getting up too many times. I'm just kidding. Just over 5 minutes to go. Alvarado off the bounce. Good-looking three-point shot for the freshman from Brooklyn, New York.
I really like Jose Alvarado, a great competitor. And Josh Pastner had a great quote about the young man. He would rather win than breathe. And that's what you need at the point guard position. He's competing against Joel Berry. And there's some trash talking going. There's some evil looks. You're making shots. You have a right.
Cam Johnson now with 14 points. Yeah, Coach Pastner told us this morning he does not want Jose Alvarado to take the New York City out of his game. What does he mean by that?
The toughness, the confidence that any gym you walk in that you're the best player. And you must believe that to be a point guard in the ACC, understanding that's the toughest position, and there are guys coming at you night in, night out, and you have to be able to lead your ball club.
Robinson on the run out. Haywood blocked the shot from behind. Todrick Jackson runs straight into a brick wall, and that's the easiest call of the afternoon.
Well, that's the same play he made before. Doug, he's going left. 100% of the time. The defense understands that. They're playing him to his left hand, and he's barreling down on the defense in transition. Cam Johnson doesn't move the entire possession. He stands right there understanding that Todrick Jackson is going to bring the action to him. He has to develop his right hand better, and he has to understand he's too valuable to this team to now, with 4 minutes to go in crunch time, to be sitting over there on the bench for the rest of the game.
Yeah, one of the top reserves in the ACC, never able to get it going here this afternoon, largely due to foul trouble. Pinson had it poked away. Here comes Alvarado. Tar Heels get back, but then they leave Alvarado all by himself. 17 points for Alvarado.
And he is cooking here in the second half, and he's taking this matchup with Joel Berry very personally. You make shots, you get confidence, and now his ball pressure is beginning to step up as well.
He blocked the shot, but also is going to be called for the foul.
Well, the situation here, Alvarado's making shots. I talked about the chippiness. The foul on Joel Berry, you can't step over a player, but you like the fight right now from the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5 Hour Energy Shots. Get back to 100%.
Thank you, Zubin. Yeah, the Texas A&M Aggies are one of the head scratchers this year. They've not had their lineup whole for the most part, still trying to get it going. Back to what we had here. A technical foul was called against Jose Alvarado for stepping over Joel Berry. Right call?
I think it's the right call if it was called during game action. He talked about the chippiness between Alvarado competing against Joel Berry, and Coach Josh Pastner did not agree with the call. He and Ted Valentine went face-to-face, toe-to-toe. But, Doug, you cannot foul somebody, they're on the ground, and step over them. That's a sign of disrespect. You can't have that or allow that. We talked about Alvarado having that New York City mentality, and you love the confidence, you love the toughness, but that's where you cross the line and things can get out of hand. So great job by the officials to step in. The mandate, this is sportsmanship week. Conduct yourself the right way. Compete at a high level, but do it correctly between the lines.
So we had the technical free throws and then the 2 free throws for Berry on the common foul against Alvarado. And you can expect the Boo Birds every time number 10 touches the ball. Luke May poked it away. Pinson, nice little dump off. Johnson blocked. Berry, no. And a foul on the rebound. Curtis Haywood whistled for the foul, and so Joel Berry heads back to the line. You know, we saw at halftime one of the great Tar Heels be recognized for being the MVP, the most outstanding player for last year's Final Four. Justin Jackson in the house, the Sacramento Kings rookie. His name will forever hang from the rafters, and the man at the free throw line soon will have his name up there as well.
And I can tell you, Justin Jackson came into college known as a shooter. This kid worked his tail off to improve every facet of his game and had one of the best junior seasons, single seasons, last year in North Carolina history.
ACC Player of the Year and a national champion. Justin Jackson appreciates what his former teammates are doing here today. That's pretty good. In unison.
In unison together on the catch.
Fortunately, Alston skipped past by Alvarado to give the fans a rest. Lammers with a lefty layup.
Georgia Tech continues to fight, and that's their DNA. They're a scrappy team who must bring energy and effort in each contest. Doing a nice job here trying to claw their way back in this game.
Lammers with the block. With Booz cascading down, Alvarado finds Alston. And that's going to be an over-the-back foul on Okogie. That's number 4 on the sophomore wing. Our ESPN Saturday Showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy continues at 6 Eastern when Baylor takes on number 10 Kansas. Then at 8:15 Eastern, our Saturday primetime game presented by AT&T, Florida and number 18 Kentucky. Both games also streaming live on the ESPN app. Cameron Johnson now with 15 points. How has he helped this Carolina team and Coach Williams better attack the season now that they've got him in the lineup and going?
Cameron Johnson has allowed the Tar Heels to become more versatile. He has the size at 6'8", where now they can play small with he, Pinson, as well as May on the front line. But the biggest skill he brings, his ability to shoot the basketball. He can stretch the defense. Coach Williams says he's improving on the defensive end. Would love for him, like you saw the last possession on the break, to attack the basket with more aggression. But when you have a skill, you're an excellent shooter, and that's what the Tar Heels have needed. He fits in perfectly to their system.
Alvarado once again drawing the attention of the fans.
That's a learning experience for the freshman. Understand where you are. You don't go pick on the bully in his front yard. That got this crowd into the game and has allowed the Tar Heels now to begin to play harder and together on both sides of the ball as we come down the stretch.
At the same time, though, don't you think from Alvarado's perspective and from Georgia Tech's perspective, pushing back a little bit, saying, you know what, we know you're the bully, but we're still here.
You love that. But you can't cross the line. I love Alvarado. I love what he brings. I love his toughness. Each time he steps onto the court, he feels he's one of, if not the best player. I love that about him. But you can't take it over the line where now you're disrespecting a competitor. The step over a player was made famous when Allen Iverson did it over Tyronn Lue in the NBA Finals. The Los Angeles Lakers against the Philadelphia 76ers. Everyone understands that's a sign of disrespect. You can't do that. Coach Pastner will let his freshmen know, compete, play hard, play with that edge and toughness, but simply you cannot take it over the line.
They're obviously just checking possession here. Alvarado's out of a great, I mean a legendary great program, Christ the King High School, that has produced multiple first-round draft picks like Speedy Claxton, Eric Barkley, Khalid Reeves, Lamar Odom, one after another. And not that Jose Alvarado is of that ilk, but that's where he's coming from. As we take another look at the out of bounds and see if we can decipher who the last was to touch. Brandon Robinson had the basketball. Did his foot hit out of bounds before he threw the ball on his opponent?
I think his right foot came down before he was able to deflect that ball off of Lammers, who was laying on the ground.
And so that is indeed the call. Bill Covington Jr., one of our 3 officials, making sure to let us know. So you say you're not a fan of number 10.
Well, he has a fan in me. We'll talk about how did he make his way to Georgia Tech. Simply the point guards from New York who've gone and been successful. I think he's going to carry in that lineage as well.
Where were you going?
I was getting out of the way. I see Bill Covington Jr. come flying with hang time in the air. We have a lot of expensive equipment over here.
That's what you were doing, protecting the telly.
I'm trying to protect the telly. I may want to draw something up here as we come down the stretch.
Now, I just want to point out the shorter guy doesn't move. We're good. We're good.
Live action, baby. Have your head on a swivel. Protect yourself at all times. Isn't that what they say in the boxing ring?
Or maybe my reactions are just getting slower. Well, the lead is stretched out to 13, but I tell you what, the Yellow Jackets have not really allowed the Tar Heels to go on one of those runs that Coach Pastner was concerned about.
And that's what you have to do when you're facing the Tar Heels. Limit their runs, continue to fight, but the Jackets simply not able to compete on the backboard. Been outmanned, outsized, and many times the Tar Heels not only getting extra opportunities with offensive rebounds, but converting those offensive rebounds directly into easy baskets.
Well, a lot of blue bloods here on the ESPN's Saturday. Coming up, 6 o'clock Eastern, Kansas and Baylor. And that'll be followed by 18th ranked Kentucky taking on Florida at Rupp Arena. And then the nightcap 10:15 out in the Pac-12. UCLA travels to Oregon to take on the Ducks. A Ducks team that got torched for 43 points by Trae Young. It is remarkable what that young man has been doing. Do the Sooners have staying power? Do they have the ability to go second weekend, even Final Four this year?
The thing I worry about with Oklahoma, no player in the country has the usage rate that the young freshman point guard Trae Young has. He has to do so much on the offensive end, averaging 30 points a game, leads the nation in assists as well, and he has to create everything for the Sooners offensively, not only for himself, but getting shots for others as well. I worry if he's going to be able to play at that high of a level for a full season with that bullseye on his back.
Well, the Sooners are up right now at Oklahoma State in the closing seconds, leading by 3 against their arch rival. Final 50 seconds here in Chapel Hill. Coach Williams calls the time to get his reserves into the game and get the walk-ons in. And this is part of a long-time history at the University of North Carolina. That young man, Kane Ma, began the season on the JV team. He's not in this one. This was earlier today. This is a JV team. No other power program in the country still has a junior varsity program.
Well, a great tradition. These guys work their tails off. Guys you see when you're a student here playing in Woolen Gym, playing pickup. And for these guys to be able to compete when the lights are on, the popcorn's popping, and the cameras are rolling, such a thrill, because they're the ones that help prepare the Tar Heels each game to come out ready to compete and possibly get a win, whether home or on the road.
Yeah, so Kevin Ma with the basketball now was not on the varsity roster at the beginning of the season, but when 7th Woods went down, UNC needed another point guard on the roster. And so in essence, Coach Williams called him up from the JV, and he's got the bucket.
And when you're a walk-on and you get an opportunity, you have to take full advantage. Love the fact that he got the basket. And the biggest cheer I've seen all night was from Coach Williams on that possession. Shea Rush coming from the help side, getting that charge. But there you see the lucky lefty, Ma, attacking downhill, the kiss off the glass. Number 11 in white, Shea Rush, defensively stepping in. Getting his head coach to throw his hands in the air in victory.
Big smile from the senior from Greensboro. Out of New Friends Garden School, Kane Ma with his first 2 points as a varsity Tar Heel, and now he'll have the opportunity to dribble out a victory for UNC. Pretty cool stuff. And UNC will improve to 5-2 in conference play. Georgia Tech will drop to 3-3. Our final, 80-66. Coming up next, Missouri at Texas A&M. For Jason Capel, I'm Doug Sherman. So long from Chapel Hill, North Carolina.